Alright, I am back streaming. It is Monday, January 21st, 2019. It's just after 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and today I'm going to be covering some more changes to the Azure Functions app I've been working on for the PowerShell Live notifications, so that when streamers like myself under the PowerShell Live banner come online, notifications go out to Twitter and Slack and Discord and anything else that we do in the future. And previously added a feature to enable notification of events that are scheduled. So now our PowerShell Live users can schedule events on their Twitch channel, and notifications will be sent out 1 week, 1 day, and 1 hour before the event occurs. So that way we can give some advance notice to folks about when we're about to stream and whatnot. Hi, Simon. So today's stream is brought to you by the fact that this morning Glenn Sarti was streaming and no notifications went out, and that's pretty sad. What happened was the subscriptions can only be subscribed for 10 days. So basically I have to resubscribe to all of the channel's event streams every 10 days. And I had a Azure DevOps build scheduled to handle that for me, but Azure DevOps has this feature, so to speak, where if you're not active on the Azure DevOps site for your repos and builds and all that kind of stuff, there's a timeout that occurs, like I think it's 5 or 15 minutes after the last site activity, and then the scheduled builds will only run one more time after that. So I'm pretty sure this was originally a feature that they built in to prevent inactive accounts from wasting compute time and all that kind of stuff. But in any case, it's kind of rough to log into your site every day to ensure that your scheduled tasks or your scheduled builds are running. So I can't really rely on the scheduled build aspect of this to continue that. So just to kind of go over what I'm talking about here, in this project builds here, I have this build, and it is set with some triggers to run basically every day at 6 a.m. and it didn't run today. It didn't run until I logged in to see why Glenn didn't have notifications going out. And just looking at it, it ran, the automated one ran shortly after I logged in at 7 this morning. I don't remember which one it was, but it just didn't run until I logged in, and then it ran. So this is actually the wrong one. It's this one. Yeah. So can't rely on this to run all the time. So we can use the Azure Functions scheduled trigger to do this for us then, since this code really lives inside the Azure Functions anyways to handle it. I can move that over there. I did some prep work this morning to get ready for this because I didn't want to stream all of it. It's quite a task to do all this. So first of all, in my build, I had to this is the normal build process that runs when we do this. Added a step here to add the subscription JSON to the drop, artifact drop. And that way in the release then that runs, let me do an edit, it's going to be better. It can then copy that subscriptions JSON file to an Azure Blob storage. So basically I set up a container underneath the same storage account we're using for the queues and whatnot to house that JSON file, and that way I can query that that file from the storage in the Azure function and parse it just the same as that. Also, on the subscription build, I also added this step to copy it up. So I'm going to continue to use the build one here for whenever I deploy a new version of the file. And that way I can also do some one-off runs of the automation too if I need to, just to see what's going on with it. So we're going to continue to have our HTTP trigger for the function. So that means that I need to have another function that fires off the on a schedule. And I debated, there's a couple of ways that I could do this. I could have the scheduled task call the existing trigger via HTTP and force the request to fire off that way. That's not really ideal because I have to do some stuff with the with getting the function key and all that kind of stuff in order to do this properly. And I don't want to mess with that. It's just it seems like it's going to be more hassle. So another way that I could approach this is that I could move the logic for running this behind a queue trigger and have the two main triggers come back and put stuff into the queue, and it gets done that way. But the HTTP trigger, I want the feedback, so I want to be able to see the results. It's kind of like the entire purpose of me having done it as an HTTP trigger to begin with, so that won't work. So I think what I've landed on instead is to move the logic for handling this into the new Twitch client that I created in here, and then have both functions, the HTTP trigger and the time trigger, just call that in. So I think that's the way that I'm going to do it. It's going to mean that we move some code around and rework some of it. Another thing that I had to do in here is the in my release task for the infrastructure as code, there's also another piece that was added in. So in the storage deploy piece, I've added in here to support containers, because you probably can. I think containers you can actually deploy with ARM. You can't do queues and tables, but since I was already doing queues and tables, it was easy enough to add the table support. So in that storage deploy PS1, basically just added a similar logic for containers to basically look at the storage.json for the containers entry and get the items for that one and loop through it. So basically adding the container and then saying that it already exists, and then also removing containers that it doesn't expect there. The caveat there was that the first time I ran it, it deleted the Azure Web Jobs hosts and Azure Web Jobs secrets containers, which caused the functions to stop working. So I had to come back here and add this. But anyways, it added this new Twitch subscriptions container to the blob storage, and now I can use that to store the subscriptions JSON. So the build tasks and the release task will take this subscription JSON and upload it to that container, and now I can access it in my functions. So that was some of the pre-work that was done this morning. So now we'll get into what needs to be done here. So this is the code that I have now for the HTTP triggered subscription management. So it basically takes the JSON payload, which is exactly what's in that subscription file, converts it into a iList of Twitch subscriptions using JSON convert, and then passes this off to a couple of functions here in the well, not functions, methods to like get the current webhook subscriptions, create some lists, do some logic to determine if it's already in the list, and if not, do that, add it and remove it. So I can actually move all of this logic out into a kind of client function. The things that I'll need to take in is an iList of Twitch subscriptions, a logger, and Twitch subscribe and Twitch unsubscribe queue. In addition, I'm going to add some logic to check the existing subscriptions to see if they're about to expire, and if they are, to go ahead and do that. That way they're not going to hit expiry and then have some lag between when the next one runs and whatnot. The way that it works right now is that if a user happens to get unsubscribed so let's say that I have my automation run at 6 a.m. and it actually does run, and their subscription would time out at 7 a.m. That means that they wouldn't get added back in until 6 a.m. So all notifications of new events and streams would not come back in. So I'm gonna have this automation run hourly now, but I don't want there to be an hour gap. So I need to identify channels that are about to have subscription expired, so I can resubscribe to them. So we're going to move this logic out and add some new logic to it as well. And then we'll create a new function that's using a time based trigger to run on every hour. All right, so let's get to work on this. The Twitch client here is something that I created to handle the Twitch requests. So this seems like a good shared space to put this logic in so that both functions can access it. So I am going to just call it subscription management. And we're going to make it public, static, async, invoke, subscription registration. This is going to take in a subscription list, which is going to be in iList of Twitch subscription, which I just copy from here. It is iList Twitch subscription. Get rid of this extra here. And the other thing that I need to take in is the subscribe queue, and this is an iAsync collector. So this is subscribe queue. And I need an iAsync collector of unsubscribe queue. And then I also need an iLogger log. So, assuming that's right, it's not, this should be like doing some squigglies, I'm pretty sure. So should this. Should be showing me something. I'm not getting anything from it, so I'm gonna restart OmniSharp on this. See if there's some like stale stuff going on. Some projects are having trouble. Show. But attempted to update a project that is not loaded. Okay. Why do you have another project loaded? I've only got one. Come on, VS Code, don't fail me today. I'm gonna spend all day troubleshooting your issues. Okay. There's only one project in here. Is there no way to tell OmniSharp what project to use? Stream notifications. Like, this should be what I want you to use. Why are you not doing that? All right, let's try. Trying to see if there's some good thing here. Might have to just kill it and start over. Basically, it's complaining that it's trying to do the wrong project. But I don't know why. Good times. See source and .NET restore. So it's nothing wrong with that. Shift P. Try restarting OmniSharp one more time. Then I'll have to restart VS Code. Okay, looks like that's working. Fantastic. So we go back here. Yes, now I've got swigglies. Hooray. Need to add some using statements that I knew. I need to borrow the types from this, so it should be Twitch subscription and Twitch subscription. Because it's a generic type. All right, there, good. I was expecting some squigglies, and now I'm getting them. So Do subscriptions and remove subscriptions. I'm gonna leave this subscribe queue and unsubscribe queue. Sounds better. All right, now I basically need to copy and paste this logic in here. That's going to complain because not all the stuff is the same here. And I actually want to return a response object from that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that I'm going to do that. So this this right here is what I return from this. I'm going to return it also in the I guess I don't. I'm trying to determine whether I want to return this from there or just return. Yeah, I'm going to return this object. So async Twitch subscription registration response. This should be complaining that it doesn't have async being called inside its body. Yeah, so there's no awaits or anything like that. So that's fine. The that'll show up here after we do this. So do this. Get to here. Yeah, this should be all I need to paste in there. And I need to return this response. So I've got some squigglies in here, and that's because I've changed the names for this. I just wanted I should name this Twitch subscriptions. That does fit the mold better. But the other one that's squiggling down here is new subscriptions, and that should be subscription subscribe queue. Alright, there's only one there, and the other one should be about the I actually need this to be task. Right, it's async, so I actually need to send it a task of T for what I'm returning if I'm doing it async. I'm going to put these on new lines because it's easier for me to read, even if that's not exactly the C# way. Sometimes these things get way off the screen. That makes it a little rough to read. And I think that's a little better to kind of put the arguments on each line. So Twitch subscriptions fixes one, the other one should be removed, so that should be the unsubscribe queue. Alright, so this logic now is there. And it's all the same. It basically just going to take in a bunch of interfaces. That's nice. And then access them. I really like interfaces, and I think that they are kind of a missed opportunity in PowerShell. So there's some cases where they're used, but I think they're great. And in C#, it's usually a best practice to take in different interfaces. That way the user can define whatever type they like that implements that interface. And that way you don't have to worry about the implementation details of their specific object. All you have to worry about is the public contract about what an interface is supposed to do. So you're guaranteed to have certain methods and such available on the interface. So they could be creating this as a list of Twitch subscription. It could be like some kind of complex queue of Twitch subscription. Doesn't matter, so long as it implements the methods that iList says. I should be able to use it inside my code. So that's good. I don't see any other squigglies in here. Let me look for problems in this file. Don't see any problems in this file. That's good. I do, however, need to update some of the logic on this. So one of the things that I've noticed on my logging is that it's a little painful to find out what's calling what when you've got a shared client method, such as like invoke subscription registration here, or like this get Twitch subscription events or whatever. So these are, I can actually remove this, I'm pretty sure. Twitch client, yep, because I'm inside the Twitch client. Let me see if there's any other Twitch client. Anyways, the logging for this gets a little muddy. So what I think that I want to do is I actually want to also take in a string calling function. And that way I can kind of log this in a way that makes sense. So I'm going to create a var log prefix equal calling function dot name of and I'm hoping that I can just put this in here and that'll work. Yep. And that way, so basically create a string that has like the calling function name and then the name of this one, and then I can put this log prefix in all of these ilog messages. Make sure I've got a space in my copy pasta there. And that way, all of the log entries will have calling function dot this function in it. And I'll probably reuse this pattern later in other things. And this also works that if let's say that I'm calling from another method, and it's also being called from another function. It can just append itself to the end of that, and the path, so to speak, of it will grow. So that way I can look and see kind of the chain in these log entries. It's a little overly verbose, and there's some ways that I can separate it out in the logging interfaces, like in app insights and whatnot. The problem with that being is that like it lags behind, and what I'm really looking for with a lot of these is when I'm doing the direct debugging and troubleshooting and launching of the new features and trying to see what's happening where. It's really hard when I'm getting because the messages in this log stream will be interlaced because everything runs asynchronously and parallel and all that kind of stuff. So it can be difficult to figure out what's going on unless I've got some more context in the log message than just the time and a message. So I've updated all of the, as far as I can see, all of the log entry settings there. So the next thing to do would be to create the new function. So I'm not going to touch the existing function until I can test the new function. That way I can validate that the logic is sound. But actually, before I create the new function, I want to add the new functionality here. So I want to check the time that these are going to expire, and I should have that information on the subscription object. So yeah, for each object subscription, so this is where I can actually do this here. Because I'm already, so basically the current subscriptions are the ones that I get from the actual API. So this goes out and calls the Twitch API to see which subscriptions I currently have, and I believe on that object there should be some. So current subscription is an ILIS of Twitch subscription. This is a Twitch webhook subscription. So I believe on trying to think of the best way to do this, because we only want the subscriptions that are real in this. So I might have to do some logic down here to yeah, I probably have to do something different. I thought that I could do it in here, but I don't want to subscribe for one that we're not doing. Hey, Thomas. You're actually watching the stream live for once. That's new, right? Okay. I think it's probably better for me to just do some new logic with it. I probably need to expand the this model. What is it called? It's called a Twitch subscription registration response. So I'm going to go ahead and expand that model. Twitch subscription registration response. Expand this and add renew subscriptions. So what we'll do is we'll have a new response piece that has a list of the subscriptions we're going to renew. Go down here. All right. So I need to get a list of all of the items that we have in the requested subscriptions that are also in the current subscriptions, and I think that I had like accept, but I think that's intersect is the right one. Figure this out. I don't know if watching my stream on this is going to be rewarding, but I hope you find it enjoyable, Thomas. So, I'm really bad at link. I can't remember which's the one that finds the ones that are in both lists. I think it's intersect. You can do some quick playing around in some PowerShell. Yeah, I think it's intersect too, but I'm going to just validate that. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 5, and I do enumerable intersect int and 2, 3, 5. Yes, so 2 and 3, and let me just make sure that it works on the reverses. Paranoid because I don't know my links well enough. Not that I don't trust you, Thomas, but yes. Yeah, I think a union is unique of two lists. An accept is the ones that are not in one list. I don't know how I feel about running your code inside my VS Code, man. I'm just kidding. All right, back to the work here. So I need an intercept of those lists. So we're going to do Did I spell this wrong? I did. Look at that. That ace typing. I'm so good at this. I'm the best typer ever. Alright, so just look at current subscription and see what it returns. Oof. Yeah, I need a requested sub dictionary key and current sub dictionary key. Ah, what was that? Control N, Control V, dot keys, and current sub dictionary keys. All right. For each, I guess this is renewable. For each. What? I'm trying to use the thing and then it freaked out and call this renewable. Alright, so this should be a type of string. If I do here. Okay. Yeah, so those are tuples, which is fine, but how do I get them back later? I guess I just tuple into a one of these dictionaries. So I need to do renewal sub equal, do var renewal sub equal current subscription dictionary. Does this lose the, it does lose the subscription time. I needed another one that has the this adds the subscription object. I need the base object, which should have that information. So I need to create a different dictionary for this. 2 dictionaries. Add, and instead of a Twitch subscription, this needs to be Twitch webhook subscription. What's the name of it? Twitch webhook subscription. What's Control B? Is that, get rid of that? Is that what you want? One more screen, less file. Yep. My bad. I don't know, I'm addicted to having the Explorer open, even at the cost of screen space. Just like I'm addicted to having this terminal take up a ton of space, even though I'm not doing anything in a terminal. I must overcome these addictions, however. They shall be ruinous. Why are you not letting me add? Oh. I need the tuple. Tuple? Oh, and I'm gonna... and replace this here with that key tuple. Now add key tuple subscription. There. Now I need to change the one that I was using down here. If you actually are following along with this and you understand what is going on, I applaud you for following this craziness. So I need all the webhook subscription objects. These are the ones that get returned from the actual API, and those should include when the subscription is getting expired. I think it has like number of seconds or something like that. Control J show hides the terminal. Oh, this is way better than the one using the tilde, which activates all of my Japanese keyboards. It's way better. Control K. Yeah. We should really do like a Twitch codes thing and just watch everything blow up as people try to code on this and send commands and whatnot. That'd be fun, right? So, I need to create the intersect of these two dictionaries, and then I need to get the actual dictionary of this key for each of those keys that are in the intersect. I'm going to call this renewable key. Renewable key list. That's a renewable key. Alright, so now I should have a Twitch subscription, Twitch webhook subscription object to play with. Alright, and renew, I want to do this as renewable. Renewable sub. Dot topic callback expires at. So what is this? It is a string. Fantastic. I think on the Twitch API it was also, let's see. Over here to Firefox real quick and look to see what they say is in the response payload on that. Nothing. Config node, least seconds. Is the get webhook subscriptions. There we go. Expires at date and time when subscription expires, encoded as RFC 3339. Time zone is always UTC. So I should be able to create that from a date into a date time. And make sure that I'm doing UTC kind from it in theory. So let's play around some PowerShells, because that's the easiest way to do this. So using the new shortcut that Thomas has taught me, we'll play with this here of do date time new. I'm wondering if I can do this from string somehow. And then date time kind UTC. Nope. So how do I do this from string? Is this from string? No. It's from file. Parse. From UTC, did I miss that? Oh, from UTC takes a date time, so I'd have to actually it's from file time UTC. Yeah, I actually need to do parse and then see if there's a date time kind overload for that. Just because I want to make sure I'm in. I guess not. Parse. And let's see what it does. See if it gives me, this is UTC. It's kind on there. Local. I need to parse with the type, otherwise it's going to be all screwed up. The thing is, you cannot trust to and from UTC, right? If you can parse and create it from the UTC kind, you should. You should not try to do between local and UTC as much as possible. So I'm hoping there's some kind of way to do this with some kind of parse exact. Let me see. Do I get some kind of style. Yeah, I learned the hard way that you should not translate back and forth between UTC and local. assume universal. I'm not even gonna try. To universal, possibly. Yeah. So I was just bringing that up, Brandon. That if at all possible, you should not do to universal time. And if you have something that's in universal time, you should do it as universal time. But it's looking like all the guidance is saying just to do to universal time on it. That's dangerous, though. I'd really hope to not do that. There is one possibility here, though, but I'm just going to give in. I think that I should be okay to universal time. So, what is it? I have that as date 2. Okay. Let's try this again. There we go. Date. Yeah, I was trying to avoid this. But I guess that's the only way to do it. Alright, so if so I'm going to do datetime.parse dot to universal time is less than equal is I was trying to do PowerShell less than equal. That would not work. Yeah, so there are a bunch of gotchas with date time that you don't run into until you have some really strange edge cases. For example, in the Israel time zone, specifically cultured to that time zone, not the generic GMT time zone or UTC offset, right? It is the actual time zone culture for Israel. If it is a certain number of years in the past that you are doing a change against to UTC, it'll be off by, I think, 3 or 4 days. So, translating between the local time and universal time can be painful. So, when possible, create your date times as UTC. So, in a date time, you can do like now. Say UTC now to get the current UTC time, and then if you need to do new, can do something like 2018 01. What is today? The 21st, 21, and then date time. I probably need more. Kind. I probably need more on it, but we'll see. UTC. Yeah, I need more. 0, 0. There we go. So that'll create the datetime as UTC without doing any conversions. It does it from scratch. It should, right? But it didn't, or at least PowerShell's version of this didn't. So I did .kind. It says local. That could be some crazy PowerShell thing overriding that.
The train, stood in line as I watched it ride away. Tried to smile, but it's getting hard to fake. Living every single day in the rain, But there you were, like a ray of light shining from afar, like a spotlight lighting.
Oh wow, I've been talking on mute. That's awesome. Yeah, I looked at trying to do the full parse, Simon, and it's just it's a lot of extra things I need to do. So I'm going to stick with the 2 universal time on here. But I guess the lesson here that I'm trying to convey is that date times are not as simple as they're deceivingly simple. So if you really have automation that is very time sensitive, make sure you read up on the date time. And there's a pretty good blog article, but it's like 4 myths about date time or something like that. Read those. It's geared towards C#, but it's the same classes that we use in PowerShell and all that kind of stuff. And make sure that you're familiar with those, because you will get bit if you're not careful. All right, so back to the matter at hand here. We're going to take the date time, parse it, 2 universal time it, and then we're going to see if it's less than or equal datetime dot UTC now dot add hours one. So we're basically going to look to see if that date time is that it's set to expire is going to be less than or equal to an hour from now in UTC. And then yeah, the worst thing about it is like the concept of time zone. I don't know for how long I was on mute there, but like the Israel time zone is interesting. So like you have the concept of like GMT offsets and UTC offsets, and those are like hard like hour blah blah blah. And technically the only you're really not supposed to apply any daylight savings time to them either. They're supposed to be static. Then you add like time zones, which then add their localized daylight saving time, which is all over the map. Like different places do it different times and have different rules for it. Leap year, different observations for leap year. God. This is why they created universal time and why everyone should just move to it and suck it up, Buttercup. Like, what time is it UTC right now? It's like 10, like 20, 21 or 2200 hours, right? Like I care, right? I don't care that it's bright and sunny out at 2200 hours. I don't care. I wish everyone else would be on board there. Sorry to get sidetracked. Daytime is something that I always like have some opinions on. Yeah, 2212. So if it is, this means that it's about to expire. So what we want to do is we actually want to enqueue it to the add queue. Subscribe queue, we're going to do await subscribe queue dot add async and renewable sub dot subscription. So we're going to add that to the queue and we're going to log it. Log information log prefix queuing let's do renew queue. Copy this. And change it. To this. This always reminds me of the XKCD comic about standards and how like there's 40 different standards for these. We should like create a new standard to standardize all of them. That's how 41 standards are created. Let me see. I'll look at the link that this is not, but it has some of the same stuff. I'd have to look up the. Actually, no. This is the one. So the link that Daredevil Ops provided in the chat is the blog I was referring to about some common gotchas with date time. And I don't even think that one's like exhaustive. There's some others out there that I've seen that are like they cover a bunch more edge cases, but those are the ones that'll definitely bite you if you're not careful. Alright, so new. So the other thing that I need to do is I need to create a new dictionary of subscriptions. So response dot renew subscriptions equals thanks for the follow, appreciate it. New iList Twitch subscription like this. Because I also need to add it to the response object so that we get back in the response object what was set for renewal. So response dot renewal, renew subscriptions, add renewable sub dot subscription. There we go. Dot add. That should help. All right. So this logic right here should handle our renewable renewing. It finds the ones that are in both lists of the current subscribed dictionaries and requested, and then looks to see which one of those is up for renewal in the next hour. If it's up for renewal, we'll go ahead and resend it. So to renew, you don't actually have to remove the subscription and then add the subscription. You just add the subscription again, and it'll force the new subscription to come in for the next time. So all right, so that adds that. So like I said, this doesn't change the existing Twitch subscription registration function at all. Or I can actually, this one. Doesn't change this one. We're not going to change this one yet. We're going to just kind of incrementally. First, I'm going to deploy a new function that's triggered on a time to call that new logic, make sure that works, and if it does, I'll switch the this one over to it. So we need a new function. It's going to take a second. Yes, this is all just to keep my webhook subscriptions alive, because they can only stay, you can only subscribe for 10 days, and after 10 days they fall off. And I was using the Azure DevOps scheduled build to handle that, but as we discussed the limitation earlier of that, I decided to use a scheduled function to take care of it. This is what I was complaining about, that like can't trust that Azure DevOps scheduled build, and this is taking a long time to load. Come on, I just want to create a new function. I guess I can try this in the past when I do it. It kind of freaks out, but we'll try from scratch. New file. Scheduled. index.cs. I have a scheduled get subscriptions one. And this one was already running on the timer. And I could have done something with this, but we actually strip off the real subscription and send the other one. I'd have to do a new queue and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to copy some of this data off of it because I need to basically read. Finally. Cancel. We're going to let that go. I'm just going to do it this way. Copy. And rename. C. So we'll get to the bindings here in a second. We're going to have to add some fun bindings, including new binding that I've never worked with before. We're going to do timer. We're going to keep the timer the same, so that's good. Queue, we're not going to queue anything, so we're going to get rid of this one, but from our subscription and registration, we're going to borrow these two queue items. We're going to need to pass those in. I'm going to rename this to subscription queue. I think it's just the scheduled builds that don't run. Like, I think you can still trigger commits, commit-based builds, and I believe that you could still like use like Task Scheduler to start a manual build via the REST API. I believe those are still possible. I haven't done extensive testing on it though, so don't quote me on it. Unsubscribe. Subscribe. I do have this spelled wrong. Thanks. Why am I not getting a spelling? Thing there. Oh no. Fix that. Copy. Make Thomas happy and get rid of that. Subscribe, queue, and unsubscribe. Queue. And I'm just going to get this ready with some things here. This is a subscribe queue. So this is going to be the bulk of what this function actually does. But I am going to be taking in a new input value here, and this should be, I believe it's called blob. Yep. And the setting for this, I'm going to take in from a thing. So this is going to be Twitch subscription blob. And I want to make sure that I have connection set to Twitch storage something or other. Let me look at one of the other ones. The fact that this doesn't have this on these is concerning. I need to update that at some point. When I fix this, I will have to come in here and add the connection here. Anyways, I thought that I'd got all those before. This is not the one that I wanted to modify. There we go. Add this to these as well. So this will provide us a blob. And I need to see what I can do with that, so in here, there's a blob example, and stream is what it takes. So input usage, string. It's possible to do string, so that will automatically turn it into a string for me. That'll be cool. Let me try that. I'm going to try binding it as a string. I hope that does what I think it will do. And actually convert the blob into a string, and then I can parse it. One could hope. Explicit with the naming of this subscription JSON content. So another thing that I need to borrow from the Delio here. Good night. Sorry, I probably missed him already. Yeah, so VS Code is pretty amazing for C#. I'll be honest here, I'm biased because I started doing C# programming in VS Code, but having used both VS Code and Visual Studio, I can tell you that I personally prefer VS Code for C# development over VS Code. VS Code over Visual Studio. Visual Studio is great for some of the things related to like library management and all that kind of stuff that's kind of around the language, but I think I like developing in C# in VS Code better. I think it's cleaner, there's less clouds, and it works pretty well, except that like early in the stream I spent like 5 minutes troubleshooting why OmniSharp was trying to load the wrong project file, so that happens. But other than that, like once it's up and running, the engine's running, I think that it's great and it's pretty good. You get all kinds of like hover over, autocomplete, a lot of the same stuff that you get in Visual Studio, and the tab completion or type completion, so to speak, all that kind of stuff is there. So yeah, definitely. So from the other make sure I've only got the ones open. In here, I've got the same kind of conversion that I need to do at the top of this piece, except I'm doing a conversion of the response body. But I can just do this. And modify it. So our Twitch subscriptions, JSON convert. This is giving me swigglies because this is not available. Add using Newtonsoft JSON in here. Twitch subscription is giving me swigglies because that's probably missing. Yeah, I need using Jerry. This one doesn't exist. We're going to replace it with subscription JSON content. So before I do that, I need to. I also want to change this. So I want to do name of and the class that I'm in. Hope that works. So I also need to log that I'm starting this log information. Name of I'll look and see what I had in the other schedule one because it included some startup time, date time now. Just copy that, use that. All right. I don't actually. One of the things that I am going to log the. I'll probably come back and remove this, but for now I just want to see what's in this beast. I'm going to do name of. I could have just like. And did subscription JSON content just to make sure that I'm getting what I expect. It's actually giving me a string and not like the name of the blob or whatever. So all I'm thinking about this, because this is pretty much, there's one more piece. Let me just finish this out. Might as well. Down here at the end, I have down here at the end of this, there is a conversion that I do on this, and do a response, which I don't need to do that. I need to log it instead, but do that. Up here, change that from response to result. So this should be a Twitch subscription result, yeah, and then I want to log that. So I'm just going to serialize it as JSON and log it. That way I can just verify the content of it. Rename it to result string. That's kind of redundant, but whatevs. All right, so that's pretty much the logic that this one will do, since we offload that into the other one, and the other function will eventually look like this too. And the thing that I need to do now is I need to update this variable in it's an application setting. So in my Azure deploy, down in this name value pair section, I need a new one. Value, and this is going to be the container name and that. So the container name is Twitch this, and then the path is this file name, because it gets updated as part of the build process. The subscription JSON now gets put into the container. Yeah, there's good reason for that. Like, troubleshooting these is painful, right? Without like hooking up the remote debugger and trying to do it in debug mode and all that kind of stuff. So I like to log, and it's good. You get tons of stuff in your stuff. Log all the things. It costs almost nothing. Log all the things. That and they work as like comments. But yeah. If I could show off a bunch of my internal automation at various jobs, you would see that the logging on it is insane. And the idea is that I want to be able to see all the stuff that happened in the past, because it runs unattended, right? I don't know if it's a good habit or not, but it's my habit. So this here will add a new app setting to the function app called Twitch subscription blob with the value of Twitch subscriptions /subscription JSON. And real quick, if we look at the bindings here for how blob storages work, it goes basically like this. And this could be if you want to have it some kind of name or something like that. But it's basically just a container / file name or path or whatever. And then when you surround it with the percent signs, that gives you... Yeah, I did. So I figured out how to get scenes working in a way that didn't screw up everything else. So like, I created scenes for each of the applications. So like, welcome, and then VS Code, Firefox, Git Bash. So I can switch between them a lot. And now that I've done that, I can look, I didn't have enough time, but now I can look at that auto scene switcher, and it's supposed to follow you around with the window you have focus on. So I need to experiment with it a little bit, make sure it works. But right now I've got key shortcuts, which makes it a lot easier to switch between them than it does like going back and clicking in the thing and then clicking again and clicking. It's like, too many clicks. Keyboards. Yeah, speaking of, so like, I'm at a decent stopping point here before I continue. I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be right back. Night, Simon. You're probably already off, but good night. So I'm back, and there's one more thing that I need to do before I commit and push up here, and that's this. I set this to null while I was doing this before I would get all this set up. So we'll do this. Yep. So that should do it. This should if this binding works the way I think it does, and it sends us a string version of the content of the blob, then this will convert it to this object with JSON convert, and then send it down into this path here. And we should be solid on all of this then. So now I'm ready for a commit here. I'm going to do first make sure I'm up to date on master. I should be. And then create a new branch. Feature / add. So Azure deploy this added the name value pair for the app setting. We've got a new renewable subscriptions on here. A new file here to do our new scheduled stuff, which looks like I need to fix a line issue. Guess I'm not letting me. Alright, put it from here. There we go. It's probably on like stage or whatever. Can't do anything. Alright. Add that change in. So that new file is created. We also added this new, we had to add Azure Web Jobs in here so we can access some new types, and then down at the bottom here we've got the new Twitch subscription invoke subscription registration task on the client, with basically the same logic with some slight touches and then a new feature to do renewables. So that looks good. We're going to fire this off here. Switch over to Firefox and get into the repo for pull requests. I guess before I do that, I don't want to. Let's be fine. Do this way. We'll find out real quick. I was thinking about building it locally, make sure that it builds and starting it, but I just don't want to deal with that right now. We'll let the CI deal with it. Tell us if it's broken. Build is queued, so we'll just watch the progress on this build. Here's the new build step that I added to put the subscriptions.json into the artifacts so that we can then later deploy it to the Azure Blob Storage, Azure Container, on Azure Storage rather. Very different thing for Azure Blob Storage. .NET build worked, so that's the most important thing there. So this should be good to go for proving the PR then. Marco. So this pull request should be ready to merge. Just needs my approval. We're gonna merge this in. That should fire off another build. This time on the master branch. Trigger a release. Nice. It's funny, like one of my most famous contributions to PowerShell core was making these export CSV rather, no longer require the no type information. So by default it doesn't send type information because that, it's so annoying. My last job I did so much work with CSV files, and now I have not touched import CSV or export CSV in quite some time. Yeah, in PowerShell core, you no longer need to supply that. It was a breaking change, but I think it's one that was absolutely justified. I don't think anyone actually uses that information. And the history on it, from what Joey was saying, was that there was at one point some discussions about doing better serialization and deserialization with CSV files as the backing for it instead of XML, and that never took off. And the reserialization doesn't work. I've had people tell me that it does, and it doesn't. Like, you can test it yourself to see, so it does not reserialize things properly. But what in PowerShell core, another thing that I did do is I did add to the PS object that it creates when you do import CSV. That now also puts the type into the PS types on it. So it does kind of work. So now, if it was a date time, it does come back as kind of a date time, and some of the other things as well. And if you're doing very simple PowerShell objects and want to serialize them as CSV and deserialize them, then it's totally cool in PowerShell core. It'll work. So if you're using PS custom object with PS type name and setting some custom type name, and you want to export that and re-import it, it should work. That's a break we could take. All right, so build finish. Let's look at the release. Should be asking for my permission to move forth with this. Go over to here real quick and go into the functions and start my log streaming on this. And go back over to Firefox here and approve. Absolutely, you should definitely stream about that. There was some discussions in the Discord, PowerShell Discord for the streaming channel, about how there is a lack of basics and beginner content and more PowerShell stuff. Fortunately, all the things that I tend to work on don't really fit in that realm, and it's not something I've ever targeted. Like, I have that one blog post about line continuations, and that's like the most beginner level thing I've ever done in the community. I just don't focus there, so I apologize for that, but it's all right. We need people at all levels sharing their content, so definitely, if you've got some stuff that you think are good, definitely. Oh man, Marco, how many streams have you watched where I'm just sitting here Googling how to do things? Trust me, it doesn't change at all. Yeah. Like, some of these, I started doing the research before streaming on a lot of the more recent ones because it would be just me sitting here Googling. So before the stream, I did about 2 hours of research on what to change, what to do, and all that. And even here, when we were having the discussion about daytime, I was kind of like off-screen Googling like the parse commands and stuff. So yeah, looking up reference material and all that kind of stuff is definitely a big part of the development process. So there's nothing wrong with that. There would be no need for Googles. That's accurate. There's the link to the Discord. If you ever want to join that. Is this like not watch all this stuff live? This gives me this warning every single time on this Azure file copy. This is the most like waste of a warning ever. Makes me think there's something wrong and there's not. Probably just refresh the page. It'll probably show me, but it's almost done, I bet. But if I go to here, it's doing that. So we'll start streaming again. And while that's getting hooked up there, everything went through with the release process. So let's have a look at the function itself. Make sure that it's healthy here. It's up and running. So Twitch scheduled subscription registration. Now, I could sit here and wait 3 minutes to see if this runs on time, or I can just run this now. Is there no way to increase this, expand? Okay, so yeah, that worked the way that I expected to. It does paste in the it does get the subscription, the content of the blob as a string, so that's pretty sweet. That's helpful. That saves like a million steps. Getting subscriptions, current directory, doing all this. This is sweet. Result. So this was the result of it. It had like the request subscriptions, which were the ones that it came in from the thing. There's no remove subscriptions. It's kind of hard to see in this. Is there a Control F? Can I find in that? And try to find renew subscriptions. Yeah, it didn't have any renew subscriptions. Didn't have any remove subscriptions. So it was all. What about add subscriptions? Nope, no add subscriptions, no remove. So it's all just normal. So no one's about to expire anyways, which is fine. This is kind of hard to like test. I'd have to have someone who's actually like doing that. More importantly, I was making sure that there weren't any exceptions. There weren't, so we're good there, I think. So now that I'm fairly confident that this is doing what it's supposed to, I can play with it a little bit. Actually, I can't. I guess really the only real way to play with it is to actually move our code over to the iList a string is awesome, by the way, Marco. The entire like list of generic lists are totally cool, fun to play with. They're a little confusing in PowerShell, but once you understand the syntax, they're awesome. I prefer. It's my favorite collection type. As for the preview portal, I don't know. I don't know if I'm using the preview portal on this or not. It's not my subscription, but yeah. iList of bill collection would be the not fun collection type for sure. There's also tax collection. That one's not fun either. Tax collection sucks. Okay, so I need to make sure I've pulled in changes here and create a new branch. So we added the new function. It seems to be working, at least as far as we can tell, without like somehow manifesting a subscription that dies in an hour. So what we need to do is change the triggered subscription, because I still want to have the HTTP triggered subscription in there, and I need to reuse the logic that I just moved out to there. So with the Twitch subscription registration one, hide this, and so we still need this top part here because that's taking in the HTTP request and parsing the request body as as a string and then creating this. The rest of this, however, we can axe in favor of the new logic. We need the end piece there. So we can borrow from our scheduled one here and kind of like copy this in to it. And we don't need this piece because we've already got that. We need to change that. Don't need this one anymore. I'm going to rename these from new subscriptions to subscribe queue and unsubscribe queue. I think those are better names anyways. So since we're using a lot of the same things in here, we can do that. The difference is that I need to update these name ofs. Twitch subscription registration. And that's really it. So I'm going to kind of redo this name of thing that's I inherited from the other one to kind of make this a little more oops, got this like messed up down in here. Come on, brackets are not playing nice with me right now. There we go. Process to request. Copy this here. And I'm just going to put this in here. Get rid of this one. Should be fine. In here, the count of those, and then change this here to end. All right. And then one of the things that I noticed when I was in here earlier is that I don't have the connection piece defined in the queue, and I want to make sure that I'm doing that all the time. So we will add this in here. And the reason for that is that right now I'm using the same storage that the Azure function uses, but at some point, you know, I might want to use a different storage account for the actual queue and blob and table storage that I need for inside the application, separate from what the function app uses. There might be, you know, other reasons for that, and it just makes it more flexible. So I don't want to be, if I don't supply the connection, by default it uses the storage account that the function app is using, and I want to be able to separate that logically. So the only reason this is working right now is because they are the same for the moment. So we have updated this, moved all the logic in there. Now we can this as there's another thing that I need to do in the build not storage deploy. Some scripts. Register Twitch subscription, I think is the right one. No. Which one actually runs? Let's invoke Twitch subscription, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so I need to add output in here for queued for renewal. It should be renew subscriptions with proper spelling. Let me just double check the type. Subscription registration response. Yeah, renew subscriptions. Just copy paste that for the lulz. All right. So that should be the only other thing that we need to update, because this is the one that runs inside the build task. So we just want to be able to have an update of the renewal, the ones that are queued for renewal, since we now get that back. And changes here were to update the connection on the queue information, and then replace the logic with the Twitch client invoke subscription registration method. And we renamed our queues to be subscribed queue and unsubscribed queue to kind of keep in line. So this basically looks almost exactly like our other function, except that it's caused by an HTTP trigger, and it does that. And again, the only reason why I didn't combine these into a single one is, for one, you can't do multiple triggers, and two, the I didn't want to do like a queue where I had two functions that fed into a queue and do it, because on the HTTP one, I want the response back. I want to see what was done. So, but I still want to share the logic, and I still want updates from one to affect the other, so that's why I went with this model of doing the client. So, I'm going to create a new branch first. This is feature. This is update. Twitch subscription registration. And then call this update to use Twitch client dot invoke subscription. Yeah, 18 characters over. I'll just use Twitch client. Maybe I can get away with just the 3 characters over. Oh well, we'll just have to live with that kind of ugly commit message there. And push this up. Go into Azure DevOps here, go into pull requests. I should have a new branch to create a pull request from. Just double check my changes, make sure I'm not crazy. Well, the changes look right, but I'm still crazy. So we'll create. Just waiting on the build, so we'll just monitor this build, make sure that it goes okay. Build pass, so now we can complete the pull request and repeat the build process. Exciting times. .NET Restore. Takes so long. I haven't looked. I wonder if Azure DevOps supports caching. 'Cause that's one of the things that I would do in Air, but is I would cache the .NET libraries. Just because there was so many of them, so it takes time just because there's a large number, not because they're large in size or anything. And .NET Restore doesn't download them in parallel or anything like that. But if you get them all over as a huge chunk that you have cached, then it's not a big deal. So this should be in release now, waiting for me to approve it. So we're off to break production. Let that run. At some point, I should probably set up some kind of, I don't know, develop environment, staging environment, with some tests to make sure that it doesn't break. But I need to look at like Twitter and Twitch and find some way of working with those. I know that Twitter has a developer environment, but I don't think Twitch has anything like that that I can test against, so.
This love that you never started, you once destroyed a broken heart that was already shattered. Holding on to what we have, you take us to the edge and back. Holding on to what we have, you take us to the edge and back.
This takes time because the Azure DevOps, Azure PowerShell v3 task in Azure DevOps is just really slow to start up. It does a lot of initialization. It has to load all of the modules for Azure RM. Then it has to do a whole bunch of setup with the context and all that kind of stuff to make sure that it's ready to go for you. It's just kind of a long process. It's like a full minute almost before you actually get your code starting. While that's finishing off here, restart the log service on this and see if we can see some initialization logs. Yeah, it looks like finished deploying, but looks like we didn't luck out on at least all of the initialization logs. Looks like we got some of them. It says that I'm connected, just not getting anything. It's fine. Never wants to work when I'm actually streaming, but I swear it works great when no one's watching. So go into here and just verify that all of this is up to date. So I'm just gonna refresh this, and I see the Twitch subscription registration is there. So the function runtime is unable to start. Okay, that's fun. I don't care about that. So it's probably a portal issue. What we can do now is we can go in here and we can fire off a subscription build and see if we can get some data on that. Come on, let me queue. There we go. Alright. So this will test the new endpoint because we should be able to get information back and parse it and all that good stuff. I think this is going to fail. So I think I actually did need to pay attention to that error. So yeah, function host is not running. Yeah, so I get like some error about something null or another. If I go back in here, I can see the error here. System private core lib value cannot be null, parameter name key. Okay. It's not extremely helpful. Just looking at these logs here, see what they provide. If there's anything that help me figure out what that error is about. I must have changed something in there. Before I do that, I'm going to try just restarting the function app. Let's see what we get. Okay. Looks like just restarting it worked. Alright. That's weird. Try running this build again. While that's doing that, I'm just going to refresh this here. Looks like we got a response back. That's good. So we have some, I have all the ones that were there, all the ones that are still there, so nothing needs to be done right now, but at least the responses are working the way we expect. Looks to me like these are all correct. Corbob, Albert, Tom Strainer, Stevie Coaster, PowerShell team, Tyler, Chrissy, Kevin, Doug, Glenn, Veronica, PowerShell Live itself, Vex, guest config, post work, Ryan, and Brett. So all good. Alright, so looks to me like it's up. Just needed to restart the Azure Function app after deploying. For whatever reason, it was stale or whatever. So I guess I still need to smooth out some of this deployment gunk. It'd probably be nice to have some post-deployment tests that went in and did some of this automatically and tried to remediate some of the things automatically itself too. But change should be in place, so now I should be getting hourly attempts from the Azure function itself to do that. So what I'm going to do is on my end, I'm going to turn off the triggers on this build. scheduled because we no longer need this one to run. So I'm going to delete this scheduled trigger. Save it. It'll still run whenever I do a commit to master that includes this subscription JSON being touched. So that'll kind of force kind of an immediate run of the subscription so that we can get whoever we're adding or removing added or removed pretty quick. And then on a hourly scheduled basis, then from the Azure function, this scheduled subscription registration should run, and the schedule is every hour. That's what that cron speak means. So should be good on that. And just expand this up. 23, 25. I guess this went ahead and ran when it started. That's fine. But it should run every hour on the hour, and we should be good there. So I am going to go ahead and sign off this stream for now, and I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back.